What if I told you that a single coloring book could turn into a six-figure business? Well, that's exactly what happened to me, and today I'm going to be breaking down the exact strategies that were put in place to make it happen. There are 4 key things that most KDP publishers miss when building their coloring book business, so make sure you stick around to the end of the video because the last one is the most common thing that most people overlook. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I'm Latoya Nicole, and I help women just like you get to the bag and to the Bible. So if you like this type of content, then make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe so that I know to keep putting out more content like this. Okay, so yeah, like I said, I'm gonna be sharing the 4 key things that took my KDP business from an idea to a 6-figure business. So let's start with what I believe was one of the most important steps, which was finding a gap or a void in the market. And speaking of void, this reminds me of Genesis 1, verses 1 through 3. Welcome back to this Bible Time with Toya chat. So in Genesis verses 1 through 3, you know that this is the beginning and this is where God created the heaven and the earth. So in verse 2, the earth was without form and void. And this is because a catastrophe happened in the earth between verses 1 through 2 where Lucifer was kicked out of heaven. And so when Lucifer was kicked out of heaven into the earth, there was a darkness and a void. And so the scripture goes on to say, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And so when something is without form and void, it signifies an emptiness or a lack of order. God began the creation process and he brought order and he brought light where there was darkness and life into existence. And we also know that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, which is the authority and the power that was used to create. And so think of form like a circle. A circle is the form of the shape, right? God created form in the earth and gave it shape because he was going to speak his word and say, let there be light. And so as a believer, you have that same authority and power, not only spiritually, but in your everyday life. And so with my coloring books, I noticed that there was a gap or a void in the market that needed filling. So I created it. Let me give you an example of what I mean. So I'm going to do a search for Black women coloring book. This is one of my coloring books right here. And as you can see, the book was published November 18th of 2020. So you do also see other coloring books that fall under Black women coloring books. But as you can see, for example, 2023, 2024. So you can see that these books are newer books, which brings me back to my point that this was a niche that had not yet been tapped on Amazon in 2020. So how can you find a gap in the market for your coloring book? One thing you can do is pay attention to what people are asking for but can't seem to find. So one of the ways you can do this is by going to Amazon and look at some of the other best-selling coloring books under the reviews to see what people are saying about these books. Look at the 5-star reviews to see what people are loving so that you can make sure you include the things that people like in your book. And then also look at the 1- and the 2-star reviews so that you'll know what people don't like. So you'll know not to include that in your book, or if you do include it, you'll know how to make it better when it comes to publishing your book. Let's say you're a mom and you're in some of the parent groups on Facebook and you see some parents inside of the group saying things like, does anyone know where to find educational coloring books, or does anyone know where to find coloring books that teach social skills? Then that could be a great niche to explore because people are already asking for it. So for me, it wasn't that I created the idea of coloring books. Coloring books had already existed and were doing well on Amazon. It was just that I took the idea of coloring books and merged it with a void that I was seeing in the market of coloring books. Anytime you are one of the first to do something or to create something that people are looking for or that's missing for people, then you'll be able to gain those people in that niche. You can also use Amazon search bar to look at what other people are searching for and then merge that into something that you would have loved to see growing up that you don't see now. So once I identified the gap or the void, the second strategy I used was creating a high quality book. Now I knew that this was going to be important just because I like quality stuff myself. But remember when I said look at some of those reviews? I was also checking out some of the reviews of the other books and I saw that quality was an issue on some of the other books. So I knew that it was important to not only fill a gap, but to go the extra mile and make sure the book was on point. And so one of the things that I did was hired an illustrator to create original artwork for me. And so she basically would take my idea and she would bring my vision to life, make it into a neat little cohesive coloring page with all these fine details, looking crisp, looking sharp, and high quality. But I was very specific with things like fingernails. Like, I know sometimes when you are drawing images, it may not be very important because maybe you want your look to be non-realistic, but because I was going for realistic images, I needed the fingernails to be on there. I didn't want it just to be in the shape of a finger. Also, another thing I was very specific with was the pupils of the eyes, because sometimes when you're drawing images, I know like cartoon images, you may just draw the circle there to represent the eye, but I was very specific. I wanted pupils. Like, I wanted it to look as realistic as possible. Now I hear a lot of people saying that they have a hard time finding illustrators, and if this is you, one of the things that you can do is outsource illustrators using freelance sites like Fiverr. You can do a search for KDP coloring book, and then you could just look through some of the options that you'll see. This one says I'll do an adult coloring book for Amazon KDP. And then you can just look through to see if you like any of the images here. And I have a detailed video about exactly what to look for when you're hiring an artist on Fiverr and everything you need to know when going that route. And I'll put the link in the description for you. All right, so the third strategy you can use to turn your KDP coloring book into a six-figure business is branding. So I didn't want to just sell a book. I wanted to create a brand that people could relate to, that they could trust and come back to. And of course, a brand is about more than just your name and your logo. It's about creating an identity. What is your story? So one of the first steps I took in building my brand was creating a website. Your website is like your online home, like a place for your business to actually live. It's like a roof over your business's head that you have control over and no one can evict you out of. So your customers can come there and learn more about you and your brand. They can learn about your product. You can add complimentary products to your books. All of this under your own website. I use Shopify to build my website, and you can start creating your own store for just $1 for the first month when you're getting started. I'll have the link in the description below. And once you click on that link, you can watch this video to see the process of creating your own Shopify store. And so in addition to your website, when you're thinking of branding, I do recommend focusing on at least one social media platform. For me, that was Instagram. And so this is where you're gonna build your audience. My coloring book brand currently has 46,000 followers. And so I grew my social media by posting consistently, but also doing reels and video content, because that is one of the main things that people really, really enjoy. I mean, think about it now. You're watching my YouTube video because you like seeing video content. I would go through and do unboxings. I would also just find audios that other people were using that were getting a lot of views or going viral on Instagram and redo those clips using my books. I would also take the time to color the photos for the books. So you can just be creative and build your social media platform that way. And I do want to say, in addition to doing reels and actually promoting my books, because as you can see, it says newly restocked coloring book, and I'm so excited. And then I'm promoting it by saying link in bio. And so this way it's sending them directly to my link in bio here, where they then have the option to shop coloring books on my website. They can shop coloring books on Amazon. Grab our customized skin tone shades of brown pencils on the website. They have the option to grab those same pencils directly on Amazon. As you can see, they're Amazon's choice. I ain't trying to brag or nothing though. Or you can buy our books wholesale using Fair. So basically with wholesale, you have to purchase a minimum amount. Like for example, with the pencils, you have to purchase at least 50 of them. For the coloring books, you have to purchase at least a case of 20 of them for wholesale prices. And then I even have a little bit about the owner. If they wanted to find out a little bit more about me, they can see my personal webpage here. And I was gonna say, in addition to doing the posts that are directly selling, you also wanna do posts that people can just relate to, where you're not selling them anything. Like for example, my audience really likes things that they can relate to, nostalgic things, like I'm this old, and you know how you see the Kmart cafe, because if you're a certain age, you remember going inside a Kmart and they would have like the, what was that piece of place? Was it Domino? Little Caesars. So you can relate to this because you remember this. So people relate to certain things. A little inspiration, like it's okay to take a break. Just indirectly reminding them that, hey, my brand is still here. We're in your face. Yeah, we want you to buy from us, but we also go a little deeper and talk about the meaning behind the brand. You can do this on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, whichever one you feel most comfortable with, because I used to say go to the one that your audience is going to be on, But for the most part, your audience is going to be a little bit of everywhere. So whatever platform is working for you currently, just use that platform to build your audience since you know how that platform already works. And so on social media, of course, it made it easier for me to connect with my audience because I was able to tell a story through my posts and through my reels. So they weren't just buying a product, but they were buying into a message and buying into something that was relatable for them, that made them feel like, oh, this is my cousin, girl. All right. And so along with building your website and your social media platform, but strategy number 4, which I said is one of the most important things that a lot of people overlook and skip, but you're not going to do that, right? And that is building an email list. So let's talk about it. When you build your email list, this gives you direct communication with your audience. And this is important because you ain't going to just be publishing this one coloring book, but you're going to create a collection of coloring books that everyone loves. So you're going to need a way to tell your people about your new coloring books as you're creating them. This is why your email list is so important, because just like your website, this is something that you own. And so if you know my story on Amazon KDP, you know that my account was terminated before. And so I was like, Lord, what I'm gonna do? When you have your own website and your own email list that you're building, this can go with you anywhere. So if Instagram one day shuts down, you still got your email list. If TikTok goes away, you still got your email list to stay in touch with your audience. This is key. And so to grow your list, you can offer something like a lead magnet or what we call a freebie. This is something in exchange for the email, something of value that your target audience will love. So think of like a coloring page or a mini coloring book, something like that. So they would just be able to enter in their email address and enter in their first name, and then they would be able to download that free coloring page. And so they get a gift, which is the free coloring page, and then I, in exchange, get their email address, which is great for building a brand, because when I get ready to publish new book, because they have signed up to my email, then I will be able to send them that information in hopes that if they enjoy the coloring page, then maybe next time they will want to purchase a whole book. In addition to the coloring page freebie, I also had an option to download a self-care guide, because the brand is about Black women relaxing and Black women practicing self-care. So if they didn't want the coloring page, they could also get a guide to tell them, okay, these are some things that you can do to take a break and get back to doing creative things and things that you love. And so when you're starting to build your list, you can use an email marketing platform like MailChimp or ConvertKit, which I talk a little bit more about in the video in the description. I'm gonna leave y'all some goodies just so y'all will be able to reference everything I'm talking about in this video, and you'll have like videos to go along with whatever stands out for you. Hopefully all of these things stand out for you, but if you're already doing one and another one that you hadn't thought of stands out, then go ahead, watch the full detailed video of how to get started with that. So those are the 4 main reasons I was able to turn one KDP coloring book into a 6-figure business. I found a gap in the market. I created high quality books that my audience loved. I built a strong brand. I connected directly with my customers through my email list. And so as we reflect on the power of creation, it's important for us to remember, just as God took the darkness and the emptiness of the earth and brought light and order, he wants to do the same thing in our lives. And so we all have areas in our lives that may feel void or empty, full of chaos, places where we haven't fully allowed God to dwell. And in these areas, we might feel lost or unfulfilled or even disconnected. I know when my spiritual mother transitioned, we were extremely close. Even in my own personal life, I felt a void or a place of emptiness. But just as we are called to fill external voids in the market with our creativity and our purpose, we're also called to address the internal voids within us. So now, Lord, let us take a moment to examine our own lives and ask ourselves, do we allow you to come in every room inside of us? Or are some of those rooms blocked off and we don't want to allow you to come in? Because whatever area or whatever room we don't allow you to come in, that's a void that you're seeking to fill. So whatever parts of our inner house that we won't allow you in for whatever reason, if maybe one room we won't allow you in because it needs to be cleaned up a little before we allow you in. Or maybe another room we won't allow you in because I ain't got it all together right in this area, so I ain't gonna let the Lord come in here. These are the very places that I know you want to bring light and order and peace in our lives. But for that to happen, we have to let you in, and we have to allow you to inhabit every part of our being. Because I personally believe that the external success you seek is deeply connected to the internal work that God wants to do in you. So as you go out and create, remember that God has given you the power to fill void, both externally and internally, through Christ Jesus. So examine yourself and let him fill the darkness in your life with light. So leave me a comment below letting me know what part of the video stuck out the most to you, which of the strategies you'll be implementing. And until next time, bye-bye.